Love you guys. You know what's nice is you can wake up and go and do what you want, where you want, with whoever you want, at any time you want. That's the one good thing. One first good thing about either having money or having the freedom from where you didn't want to be. And a good shout out to XL Pros. My eyes are killing me, you guys. So I'm not being able to text back right now. But yesterday we had the funeral for Captain Resendiz, and you guys were there for the memorial service. And I appreciate you guys being there and stopping in and supporting me. It was a hard day. I was really, you know, I was really shocked by that. It hit me hard. That guy was one of my mentors, and I just have so many good memories of this dude, and not only me, but so many other people. Do you know we really should seriously have a memorial service for this guy and have everybody this guy knows print out a picture of him with them and put it in a frame and bring it here to the firefighter library and put it on all the tables and have everybody sign the ledger and light a candle if they're Catholic or something like that. But the guy had a legacy, and he was not an old guy at all. He was only 47. Yeah, he was younger than me, and he was one of my greatest teachers as far as like paramedic stuff goes and rescue. Because there are things that out of men like that carry so much weight that any kind of criticism of them just doesn't matter. Wouldn't see this kind of guy at this level, and he was at this level because he took care of himself. He learned. He went through school. He was at 28 years with the fire service. Then, I don't know. We don't know yet. We know he was sick with something. But anyway, it, he was a guy that was on that level where he could take it or leave it, if you understand what I'm saying. Now on to this incredible topic that we have, guys. And that is why men cheat. Why men cheat on their spouses. And let me say right off the bat, before we even get started, is that any stories or anything I tell at this point forward is going to be a lie, or it's going to be scripted that some other person wrote this story and probably stole it, copy and paste it on the motherfucker. So anything that's said at this point forward, anybody writes in the chat, there is this disclaimer, okay? We are writing a story for a movie. So anybody who writes anything about anything at this point forward is helping me write a script for a story. And so you're telling me your personal story, but really isn't your story. So you're not really telling on yourself. And I'm not really telling on myself, even though I probably am telling on myself, because number one, I am definitely guilty of having cheated on just about every woman I've been with in my entire life. And there has been some where I have never touched another woman. And those are the women who cheated on me. So, but that's aside for the point. We're not even going to go there today. We're not even going to go on the woman deal with too side today, because there's no point in keep beating a dead horse. We want to point out the character flaws and the defects of character in our own selves that may have pushed women into this other realm that they're not really biologically supposed to be. So we've been dogs. I don't know about you, but if you were a man born in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, we were all subject to the children of a sexual revolution. Now, my dad would have been about in his 20s during the 60s, and he was in his 30s during the 70s, I believe. So he was able to go in the old days, and he worked at a big office. And this is long before the Me Too era. But he was married to a woman, and I'm assuming that, he was a high caliber guy at that point, but he was sort of a simp. In fact, I know he was a simp. In fact, yes, this man was a simp, and he adopted, took over a lot of women's lives. He like sponsored them like employees. And his whole game was he's a high value guy with a whole office building full of attractive women in the 1970s that wore, skirts to work. Those were the days where you used to wear stockings, and those were neat because when you're a little kid, you're about eye height to those stockings, so you see everything when you're a little boy. So stockings were an interesting thing to see in the 1970s. I was I was an infant, and the 80s was where it was at. The 80s, the 80s were amazing. But what happened with the 80s was the cheating revolution, which is what I would call it. And I'm going to tell you guys something. I have turned from all of this deviancy, so you can't throw this on me right now, okay? None of this stuff applies to me anymore. I have no intention, no desire. I have worked out my life in such a way that nobody can accuse us of anything that would be considered unsavory, unholy, or anything of the like, because we don't operate that way anymore. And having admitted what we've done in the past, we've turned from those ways, and now we're walking in a different light and a different road, and there's not a lot of people on this road. There's a lot of people that are on a highway to destruction. And this, what we're talking about right now, is that topic of discussion. It is that when we men cheat on a woman, it affects them psychologically so bad that they want to call 911 on us. Okay? They want to consider it a crime that we have committed against them and that we should be put in jail for it, for hurting their feelings, for breaking up with them, or for cheating on them with somebody else. Do you know that when a man cheats, it's not normally with a woman who's more attractive? And normally it's not with the woman that he would consider wife material. Not a smart man anyway. A lot of smart men have married young, gotten rich. Those wives became complacent. That's not to the man's, that's not the man's fault. Could be, but I'm only focusing on the men today and why we do what we do. And we do what we do well because we could be sneaky, but usually it's a long game. And usually there's got to be some kind of timing thing and space thing. There is so much involved. It becomes a full-time job to be a full-time cheater. I'm just telling you guys from experience of this the script I'm reading. So I'm giving everyone the benefit of the doubt because we're only going to talk about men today. We're only talking about men and why we do what we do. We cheat a lot. And there's no question about that. But the question is, why do we cheat and how do we do it? So this is how we cheat. We typically warm up to people in an office situation. And in an office situation, sometimes there will be attractive and unattractive people, but there'll be definitely an attractive girl and an attractive guy, typically in every office. And those people usually get a chance to hang out a lot. Now, attractive people normally have relationships going on. They might live with somebody else. They might be married. And if they're married and life seems to be going pretty good because the job is nice, the office is great, he likes his job, Sometimes he has to work late. And there are many, many, many attractive ladies in his office. And you know how some men might lose all sense of restraint and rub their hand against the girl's hand who is clearly showing choosing signals that she's interested in him, or they've had the conversation. This wouldn't be some random, thing at the office. No, this would be what we would consider to be your work husband. And a lot of people have work husbands or have work wives. In my case, we're only going to talk about work wives. Now, when I wanted to cheat, what I would do is I would find a girl that I wanted to cheat with. And since economically I could possibly get anybody as an employee, I would tell this person, I'm going to do things to you like the sun and the moon. And they would go, oh, and I would give them a job where they could be free to fuck around on Facebook all day and do whatever they want. The only catch was whenever the girlfriend or the wife of the boss left, then we would go all to lunch, and everybody went to lunch together. Everybody went to lunch, and everybody went off to lunch to go screw each other. Everybody in the entire office went down to other places that were far away from the office building and rock and rolled every single day. Every single day. I mean, even days off, you would see, I knew where they put their cars because I'm not a judge. I don't care what you do with your money or your body. That's your problem. So this is cheating with work spouses. And they don't see, this is a very psychopathic way of thinking. This is a very psychopathic, if it's not pathological. I don't understand these words. I'm a dumbass on the internet. Don't pay any attention to big words I might use, right or wrong. But a man might cheat because he is not felt attractive. So a lot of people might pick a man because he has a dad bod, and that's a control issue. They don't want a man who's in shape. You get a man who's in shape, he's not going to, is he going to stick around? Hey, you never know. You always never know. If they stick around and they're good to you, that girl might get bored, and that might be the end of it. My eyes are killing me, just so you guys know. The sun comes through here in the studio in the morning time, and it just, oh man, this is a library, you guys. So they need a lot of light in here. And it is blinding light. But that's how they build these old houses in Mexico, man. Like old churches or tombs or whatever, built completely out of cement and blocks. You never know. Probably like millions of dollars hidden in the walls in here or something. Shit. So let me just say, women attracted to men who have a woman already, this is true, single men don't get some attention. Okay, so we're going to do this. Hold on a second. Let me just reread that. It says, women are attracted to men. Yes, women are attracted to men who are attached. Now, we're only going to look at the men's side. Those men make the decision to winky-to-wink at the golf course to the drinky girl, right? Winky-wink at the golf course, slides a number or slides in the DMs, because all he's got to do is like put two and two together and go, oh, the drink girl at the golf course, at this golf course. And then in literal 10 minutes, and he doesn't even have the blue check. But she know he's baller like that. He's leaving out of there in a Benz. Just shined up. So she's under the assumption that he's married because he's wearing a ring. He's balling because he's got money. Every single person on both sides of this transaction right now is at fault. So just as bad as that girl might be, we're only going to take responsibility for the man's side. He's balling like that. So is it okay for him, as a guy who might have options, to blow this girl's back out? And would it be okay? Would it be okay if you're a righteous fear guy, like if you want to live righteously? Are we running through girls? Is that our thing? I don't think that's something I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with one. I'm good with that. And I'm good with that. Even if it was zero, it means, like I said at the beginning, if you read at the beginning, you can read the description. You guys can read the description. Right there, read the description. If you read the description, you'll see that 25 to 30% of the population of men are not having sex at all. So this whole thing about all men cheat has just been defeated by statistics alone. So if that means that 25 to 30% of men are not having sex, 70% of the rest of men are either going and just digging through the gardens of eggplant and just digging and digging sticks and wrecking stuff. And yeah, smashing everything. But then we come to find out that statistically that's not true either. What have I heard? It's like 45%, and let's say black men, are single, childless, unmarried and childless. Is it 45%? Because we could take a demographic now. Let's take the Atlanta area, North Atlanta, and we'll take the average income of 47,000. Divide that by 2. Subtract 10%. That is what you're left with. It's not very appealing. It's not very appealing for a man who makes so little to screw around on a woman who could take half of that and make now your northern Atlanta experience that you love so much, hanging out in fucking mall. You don't live anywhere else except the fantasy inside your head that says somehow my value must be higher than another person because of what I possess. So I'm going to go and pick off other lesser men's women. I have done 2 things in bars. I picked off lesser men's women and picked off lesser men. And I don't understand now why I did what I did. It was I did. I'm always a dumbass. But I've been arrested about 19 times for bar fights and being drunk in public. That was 19th of March, 2002 was the last time I was ever tossed in jail for drinking, because that was when I quit. So I've stopped doing all this dumb shit. I've stopped doing all this fuck shit. So, but I can sit here and tell you guys that even though I stopped doing drinking, I was still doing stuff that guys who drink do. You know what I mean? Just the worst that you could be at everything. I mean, I was coming home with like a button shirt, and there'd be like the top button would be like buttoned down here. I'm not even kidding. Like this button would be the way the hell down here. This button, and covered in makeup, my underwear. And now I'm talking about like tighty whities back in the old school days. Tighty whitey white underwear with lipstick all over the inside, like girls' fucking sparkly makeup in my fucking drawers. And the woman that I did this to, I lived with her. I was shacking up with her. One of those one-night stands the last 2 years. That was what I was doing. And I was so out of it. just not, I was so done. I was willing to lie about everything just to get this woman out of my life. I didn't know how. I didn't have ability. I was too big of a simp to stand up to her. She was from Turkey. So there was always this theory that all Turkish women carried knives. No, she carried a knife. Carried a knife. She was willing to use it. I got confirmation on that. Now, listen, guys, I have put the link. I pinned the link. If you guys want to come on the live, I pinned it to the top. So if you want to come in on this and give us a story or two that allegedly, you see, none of us have done these things. At this point forward, we have the Uno reverse card. Anything at this point. You're not going to need it. You're not going to need it. You keep living your life honestly and righteously. It's so much fun now, man. You see, I don't have to worry or stress myself about being sneaky. I don't have to lie to go and bang other chicks. Not that I can't get away with that, but I could if I wanted to. And that's an option that she knows is there. And she probably knows I have enough class at this point, and I've gone through enough shit in my life to not want to repeat the same cycles of what happened to me before. Because one of the reasons why women equate when you cheat on them to a crime committed against them is that it violates their ego. Their egos are very, very malleable and soft. It's just why they all believe in social media. They all believe in horoscopes. It's mind-blowing how easily it was to manipulate the masses. And what I'm looking at right now is men that are just weak men that are enslaved. If you look at how emasculated the average white man is, ages, let's say marriage age 30 to 42. These men look so tired and so sad. And there's guys that are over, I'm 50. Do I look sad and tired to you? I probably do look tired because I never sleep. But guys don't have the time these days. They have too much go-getting to get. You see, we guys got a long way to go. We got a long way to go, and we got a short time to get there because there may be a cataclysmic event. There may be, and I'm going to say a cataclysmic event that may or may not have been man-made. Who the hell knows? All I know is that this has been one hell of a good video game. So if any of you players know where you're at, I want to thank my player one. He's been pulling me through. That's a good place to be once you know where you're at. So now I can reflect back on all these fucking relationships and fuck ups that I had. And then I can work backwards from them because I can say I can take responsibility for every single one of them. Any mistakes I made in any relationship, they were all my damn fault. Every one of them. All of the shit and fuck shit I did, anytime I've ever been picked up, anytime I've ever had to be bonded out, anytime I've ever had to get a damn lawyer, normal people don't have to go through this shit. And now I'm one of those boring normal people. But you still have a stigmatism even if you have a criminal record. Even if you were just arrested, which is what is a very big complaint. And like I said, I'm going to take our responsibility because if we hadn't raised our voices and gotten emotional and instead of walking away, stuck around while she's throwing the phone at her head and things like that are going sideways. Now, instead of us doing that, we have 3 friends on call all the time that are our witnesses. You walk out, you go to that place where you know in advance, hey, look, man, my dear 3 guys, I know that I'm having some blow-ups with my old lady. So I need you guys to help me to not do something stupid, A, and B, not to blow up. If I had three guys like that, we could eliminate a lot of the domestic calls, which lead to an arrest that's unnecessary, which leads to a man having a history, a record in the legal system, which is not good for future employment or trying to rent a house. And I was subject to all these things, even though that I was not acquitted. I didn't have anything that serious. I bounced a check. Bouncing a check in the state of Florida, even though I was an LLC, was part of a business, I was not the person who actually wrote the check, and the check was stolen, and I was still charged with, because it was over $300, it was a felony. So when they realized what the fuck up was, they dropped that to a misdemeanor, and yet I'm still stuck with an arrest record, which, by the way, I turned myself in. I was like, got a bondsman. I went there, stayed there for a minute, and then I walked out. And then when they had court, I went there, and I was like, yeah, here it is. This check was stolen from me, but you know what? I went in and paid that money back so we can be done with this. And then it was dropped. So, but besides that, facing things that I've either done or not done is a reason why a lot of men cheat. Let me go backwards on this. Is because most men who cheat are pretty weak and lie a lot. And if they get bored, it means that they are, okay, I'm not going to say they're questioning what God has sent you, because many of you guys are still shacked up with some coronavirus fatty that you shouldn't even be with in the first place. Shouldn't have been shacking up. I was shacked up, and look what it cost me. A white Mercedes, you know what I mean? Piece of land, wasted time, but you know what? It was a small price to pay to get rid of that lady, because I would have cheated on her again and again and again. She insisted I was cheating on her. She insisted. So when somebody does that to you psychologically, do you know what that does to men? That actually does the opposite effect. She is literally saying, please, please don't cheat. Don't cheat on me like my ex did. See, what they're doing is they're bouncing back that trauma that they had with their ex or their husband or their father, because most of this is generational. What is the story about Black men abandoning their families? That is the boogeyman that existed how many generations back? How many generations back was that? It was a phenomenon. It started when? It started at a certain specific, you could trace it all back to one single point, one single event. And that was when they incentivized getting divorced, they incentivized child support. So when a man used to cheat in the old days, the marriage was over. She would get the house and the kids and the car, and he would be down the street in an efficiency apartment, and he would be taking taxis to work. Then he would be taking the bus because he couldn't afford taxis anymore. But what happens to men after that shit is they usually bounce back hard and fast. And when a man is down, he fucks, you don't fuck around. You don't fuck around with some old 90s dudes, 80s, 90s people. You fuck around, you're gonna find out, because they don't stay down for long. Dudes that are down, that are motivated, they don't stay down. They don't stay at their mom's house. They'll sleep in their car. They'll sleep in the woods. They'll sleep in a tent. They'll sleep in a public bathroom. That's how resilient people are. And those dudes will come back and bounce back and do something ridiculous, like go, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to start playing guitar in the park. And some music producer in Mexico City passes by and says, what is your name? I say, Da Vinci Williams. Williams, man, you have a beautiful voice. This is my card. I would like you to come to my studio and see who shows up. And I'm like, thank you, sir. And I'm taking this card and I put it in my pocket, realizing now that this man may have handed me the keys to the kingdom. Why would I need to, concern myself? I'm now elated. Am I going to spend my time wasting my time chasing pussy around? No, because when you start leveling up, that shit's going to start chasing you. And the more attractive you become, even those women who you find attractive, who before would never give you the time of day, you are now 7 levels up. 7 levels up is quite a wonderful view. It is the view over Mexico City on a rotating platform that has nothing but glass windows, and it turns hourly. And the elegance of the dining room at the 7th floor, by the way, has the linen, the most beautiful linen napkins waiting on the table, which has, by the way, all gold-plated plates, 14 karat gold, with the logo for the restaurant, which is, by the way, in the World Trade Center. The World Trade Center of Mexico, you guys. World Trade Center. You should go there. And having lunch with a friend who visited from Miami. And this is a dude that only sees Mexico as, let's say, the desert. He's never seen that as something pretty. And he is so accustomed to cheating culture back in Miami, being dodgy and always having to look out for shit and then racing messages and all this dodgy stuff. He comes down here and all of that has somehow gone out the window. But it's far sneaky than that. Do you realize that there are other cultures that cheating is part of the culture? Did you know that in Latin America, for example, there may be a man, a good man, who's good with his wife and good with his kids, but his wife knows that on Thursdays that he goes down to the putera. What's a putera? Guys, do you know what the putera is? If you know what the putera is, do me a favor and write that in the chat. And I'll say it for you slow. Putera. So if you don't know, if you haven't heard, if you can't write it, a lot of married women in Latin America will mentally allow their husbands, give them permission to go to the putera once a week so that he can get the venom out. When he gets them demons out, he goes back home. She knows exactly where the fuck he's been. He's got beans and rice on the fucking table. And Bobby, and you know what's crazy? It's acceptable down here because she knows that that man is stable, and she is giving this man the option to move about. And I don't agree with that. You could live that way if you wanted to. He is exercising options because if he was thinking about it, is he being dishonest about it? Is he being dishonest or disingenuous? Because he's not saying he's going to the putera, but then again, he's not saying that he's not. He's not saying anything. All he's doing is leaving, and then when he comes back, he's zipping his zipper up. And it might have, whatever. She's coming back to him. Why do you think that she would tolerate that? Oh my God, is that the firefighters? Hold on a second, guys. I'm going to mute, and I'll be right back. And then this guy shows up. So when this dude shows up, then it's time to do class. But we got to get the classroom set up and doing all this stuff. Meanwhile, we got all these dogs to deal with. So he was just stopping in to say hi. He's going to jump to the other side because he's one of the new recruits. And I just wanted him to say hello. So.
Hi. Hi. Okay. Nice. Whoa. Oh. Oh.
And that's how that works, man. So anyway, guys, I'm not taking this moral high ground, whether a man or man should or should not. If you want to lower your chances of staying married or staying in a relationship with someone who's going to be there by your side when you're old, you're going to need each other. And you do need each other for reproduction and then for provision. Because we could live without them if it didn't happen, if it wasn't for wombs. And another thing is that another reason why men cheat is they don't realize, and this is a deep one that Patricia O'Neill pointed out, a man will cheat because he doesn't realize that pussy is not that important. Getting in between a woman's legs and just wrecking that shit. And I'm not talking about just a little bit. I'm not talking about getting up in their guts with a digging stick until they bust. And I don't care if you understand what that means. That means blowing their back out, because that is exactly what I would do. A cheating man doesn't care if that woman has a husband, a girlfriend, a serious relationship, a father at home, a brother, or if she's a single mother. He just wants to blow her back out. Which is why it's so easy with the small percentage of men who decide to dress like me and then decide to read books, get educated, have a little bit of money, and then position yourself just right for these nerds. These are tactics. Position myself just right so that they can see that they misspelled my name on the Starbucks cup. So she sees what my name is. She knows who I am. Then she sees me check in at Starbucks. So now she's chasing me. This woman's stalking me. And by the way, I don't follow women. So that is not my game. If you guys see any women on my Instagram or Facebook, that means that I actually know them professionally or otherwise. But I'm not one of these guys that's thirsty or no. In fact, I've had to chastise many girls who know what I'm about. Is that Serbian Orthodox are not normal dudes. When it comes to sigmas, we can't be manipulated by sex or by money. And this is not something that came by default because I was trained to be a simp from the word go. What happens to simps when they realize that they have been the driver in a joyride? Excuse me. They have been the car owner and the lady has been joyriding in his car. And it may have been for fucking years. He is going to go and trying to find other options, but he suddenly realizes she is financially supported solely by him. So she knows she can't leave just yet. And he knows that too, but he's such a simp, he doesn't want to be here by himself. So he literally kind of eases in that conversation about, maybe you should go back to your apartment. You know what I mean? I'll pay for your apartment. Because that's what simps do. I know because I did that. I was paying for 3 different girls in 3 different countries. And one of them had a daughter, which another big red flag, guys. If you decide to shack up with a single mother, make sure that they don't have a female child, because there is a lot of accusations happening, and I'm going to mute. Accusations that could be said against a man that may be falsified, This might be false. So protect yourself, men, and simultaneously, men, if you're one of these people, go get some help. If you're one of these people who feels the need to touch underage children, there's a place for you. And I'm not going to go any further. So, fellas, do better. I know we could do better because, I mean, it doesn't make any sense now. A third of the population of men aren't even having sex whatsoever. The rest of the other 30% are men are just NPCs. Chad, Tyrone, who else? Jody, that's on the military bases, is getting 90% of the population pregnant. Now, what's crazy is that if that's true, then that means that there's only 10% of men to blame for 100% of the problems that men and women have in dating and cheating. So if that's the case, then a man who's stable is a beta provider. Chad and Tyrone knock her up. That gives him the single mother to adopt a child, which is so sad to say. That is so sad to me. They should be with their father. Especially for a boy should go and live with his father, especially if they're certain ages. Whoa, they need to be around their father. They need to be around their father. Otherwise, they may have mental problems, may have been in jail, just violent outbursts, their loss of control of their emotions. They defend a lot of feminism because they were raised to defend feminism, that women could do no wrong. Mama was always right. We come to find out all of our parents were fucking stupid. If your parents were adults during the 70s, there was rust in the water. I mean, you guys were drinking from the old hand pumps outside, out back. You would have to pump it and be freezing ass cold when they come out of the water. You guys drilled that well, your granddaddy did, and then that old pump is still there. Drinking out of rubber tubes, rubber hoses, middle of the summer. Is that a problem? I don't think so. So we came from a different generation of a generation. Now, what caused a man to decide that he could walk out on a girl? See, this wasn't a deal back in the day. Back in the day, there may have been, during the 1950s, a plan of some kind to literally make Stepford wives. If you don't know what Stepford wives are, they're basically these robots that make up for perfect women. And these women would be programmed specific for the man, which nowadays, I guess people are getting literal dolls to live with. And they don't have to mess with women. They just have a doll, a literal toy. So yeah, if that's what you want, you can do that. Me specifically, if I was to level up in my life at a comfortable level where I wanted to be, almost by default, a woman will gravitate towards you. A lot of times, women of high value or means stay away from the public. So that means less public, less boyfriends. Less boyfriends, they're very busy with their life, but they're really taking time to build their own little house, build their own little way of fleecing grandma's money, scurrying it away into investments into Airbnb and hair salons. And if that is what they want to do, then my hat's off to them. But why a man would cheat on a woman who has her own business? Does that matter? She has her own business. So if the dude's going to cheat, he's going to have a motive. He didn't just go out one day and he's like, hey, bitch, come over here and suck my cock. That's not how this shit goes. Men are more calculated. It's usually that they have become obsolete at home. If a man feels like he's without value in his own home, he is going to do the next thing. And the next thing is what is biology. If it fights with him, tell him. I'm one of these people who only fought with my biology. As a matter of fact, I have been such a rebel my entire life. I have been such a rebel my entire life that anything that would seem popular, I would deem it to be disgusting. If it was something that was underground, I would find it awesome. If it was underground music, like an underground tape that somebody got, and this thing came down from New York in the 1980s, and it was a mixtape, I would be so thrilled. And I'd have my stereo speakers. I used to hook up as many speakers as I could find in the garbage. I would hook up cabinets, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of plugs. And I would find old amps and connect those amps to these old, like beat up, like speaker boxes and they would have like 12s, but they wouldn't be 12s like you and I would think 12s for a car or something. No, they would be these old 12s that come out of those old TV boxes that had the turntable on top, and then on the side it had like a radio, but it was a cabinet. And they were neat. They were like a carpenter that invented those. That's who that was. I was a carpenter that invented a turntable that was a piece of furniture, because back in those days, when people came over to your house, they didn't fuck around on their phones staring at their phones. They played records and talked to each other. And they mingle, because human beings have a purpose in life. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys this. If you didn't know this already, is that your purpose in life is connection with other people. So your purpose in life is connection with other people. And like it or not, whether you want to or not, you will be in connection with other people. You want to make your life powerful? Be careful every interaction that you have. Make the conversation powerful. You see, I always seek excellence in people. Like I was telling my assistant over here, Brian, for example, is that we will give people chances to redeem themselves once. And if they continue to do what we tell them not to do, like it could be somebody stole something from somebody out of the refrigerator, stuff like that. And there's consequences to be had. But there's also another way that you can live your life, and you can endure the hunger and not steal a sandwich out of the refrigerator. If you are a person who is a person of discipline, can learn to endure things that are uncomfortable and learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, to make your life a one of valor, so that people would literally want to leave a statue in your name. And that's why when we went to that funeral last night, it really made me think that we really should start putting up beautiful statues, the busts of the heroes that the town has here. So, and you know what? Those guys were high value dudes, because they could have had any girl they wanted, but they chose to pick the one woman that was be submissive and to give them his children, because we're talking about generational differences. Many, 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 many men have abandoned their families. There's no question about it. But the question is why? Is it that much more convenient to not go home to a loving wife and children? Is it just too much to fucking change diapers? I don't think so. I think it was something more profound than that. I think alienation has a lot to do with that. I think being able to divorce faster has something to do with that. And you guys, I want to thank XL Pros for sponsoring one of the kids for the Junior Fire Academy here at the Firefighters Without Borders down in Mexico. He sponsored a kid for a whole month and got him a uniform and a hat, and was able to send that kid to, well, the kid that goes to, we have afternoon class, just turned 13 years old, and he's going to start going to the regular gym now because he's 13 now. So we did good. We got him to the age 13, guys. If we had an applause button, I would be hitting it right now. So we got him to the age 13, and he's not dead. So hurrah for that. So I can't read you guys, so I'm sorry. So he wanted to know who was I talking about that deserved a statue. Okay, we did a memorial service last night, and that was for one of my captains that was one of my mentors during my time in the fire academy. And he was such a good dude. He was very patient with me because we're talking about this doing all fire academy, but doing it in Spanish. And because of the lack of, fully being able to understand the words that were coming out of his mouth, then I would have to be given time in between phrases to give a second to process to see what he was talking about. Because, I knew about as much Spanish as this damn table over here at the time. So here I am, a foreigner. My dumbass goes over and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm not in the military anymore. And I wonder what we could do about me going to fire school." And they said, "Oh, come on down, try out." Try out, they said. I said, "Okay." And so I went and I tried out. By the way, I had 2 broken knees. Both of them had to be injected with this anti-inflammatory drug before I did the exam, and that was running in a circle for 50 laps around the inside of this area, this closed-in compound. So once you were done running around 50 times, by the way, my knees were about this big. After I got the injections, they went back down to almost normal. I was still a lot of pain, but I was able to wrap my knees up and go through the 50 rounds. It was 50 times a round, which is, I don't know, it was equivalent to like a mile and a half, and you had to do it in a certain amount of time. Not a big deal, but brother, let me tell you what, when you are in Mexico during the summertime, wearing all that EPP gear, running around in circles, maybe you got a harness on your back, and maybe you have.
Bien. Levantar las velas.
Then that's what it's going to be. So anyway, guys, I'm going to close this out because we're going to have to do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because we weren't even barely scratching the surface. We were going to get down the deep psychological reasons why men of all phases in life, meaning weak men, strong men, in between men, married men, single men, and everything else in between, because there's a deep-rooted cause in not just psychopathy, but also no passive-aggressive behavior. No, it's not. Narcissism, definitely character trait, narcissism. Now, remember something, guys. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a PhD. I'm just giving you guys what I've been told. Copy and paste on a motherfucker. I say, I don't want to tell you guys anything else. Like I said before, this is nothing but a script. We're all lying here. So it don't even matter anymore. So listen, guys, I'm going to do part 2. Until next time, I'm the professor and I'm out, man.